Morris Talansky. Morris Talansky dies at 92. According to the verdict, Talansky transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars to former Prime Minister Olmert over several years. Jewish-American businessman Morris Talansky passed away on Monday evening at the age of 92. Talansky, who also goes by Moshe, was known for serving as a key witness in the cash envelopes affair, in which former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was convicted of receiving money illegally while serving as mayor of Jerusalem. According to the verdict, Talansky transferred hundreds of thousands of dollars to former Prime Minister Olmert over several years. Jewish-American businessman Morris Talansky passed away on Monday evening at the age of 92. Talansky, who also goes by Moshe, was known for serving as a key witness in the cash envelopes affair, in which former Prime Minister Ehud Olmert was convicted of receiving money illegally while serving as mayor of Jerusalem. He was laid to rest in a cemetery in Beit Shemesh, according to Ynet. He was an Orthodox Jew from Long Island, New York. Both he and Olmert jointly founded the New Jerusalem Fund, a charity aimed at raising money for projects in Israel's capital. Conflict. Conflict dies at 63. British punk rock star Colin Jerwood has tragically died aged 63 after a short illness. The singer's band, Conflict, announced the sad news today, sharing, "It is with a very heavy heart to announce Colin passed away after a short illness. We know for his supporters that this is difficult news to hear." Explaining that they had set up an online page to post tributes to their friend, they added, "We appreciate that many of you might want to share your condolences. We have set up this online memorial page that you can contribute to. You can also donate to charities in his memory." Then, sharing a heartbreaking request from Colin's family, they continued, "Colin's family meant the world to him, and he would want their wishes to be respected. We kindly request that you do not attend his funeral. His family will be reading through any comments on the memorial page, and your presence will be felt. We appreciate all your support for Colin and Conflict over the years." Punk group Conflict was originally based in Eltham, South London. Formed in 1981, the original lineup consisted of Colin, Francisco, Paco Carreno, John, Steve, Pauline, and Paul aka a nihilistic nobody. Colin founded Conflict amid the punk boom in the UK and was known for his strong stance on animal rights and anti-fascism. Under Colin's leadership, Conflict released music through their own Mortar Hate Records label, supporting other bands, including Hagar the Womb and Icons of Filth. The star's death has left a significant impact on the punk rock community, with tributes pouring in from fans and fellow musicians alike. One took to X, saying, "That's sad news. Only saw Conflict once. Chelmsford YMCA early 1980s. One of the best gigs I have ever been to. R.I.P." Richard R. Eakin. Richard R. Eakin dies at 86. Former East Carolina University Chancellor Richard Eakin has died at the age of 86. Eakin, who led ECU from 1987 to 2001, continued to serve the university in various academic and leadership roles after his tenure as chancellor. Eakin began his career in mathematics and held numerous administrative positions before arriving in Greenville. He is remembered for his lasting impact on ECU and is survived by his wife, Jo, their children and grandchildren. Former East Carolina University Chancellor Richard R. Dick Eakin has passed away at 86. According to Eakin's obituary, he held a number of leadership posts there, including Assistant Dean of the Graduate School, Vice Provost for Student Affairs, and Vice President for Planning and Budgeting. Dick and his wife Jo moved to Greenville, North Carolina in March 1987 to accept an appointment as Chancellor of East Carolina University. They served the university until 2001. Dick is survived by his wife Jo, children Matthew Glenn Eakin, Susan, and Meredy Lynn Knight, grandchildren Megan Eakin and Natalie Eakin, brother-in-law Larry Gilman, and numerous nephews and nieces. Shigeo Nagashima. Shigeo Nagashima dies at 89. Arguably the most popular athlete of all time in Japan's sporting history prior to Otani's arrival, who helped make baseball the country's national pastime, Nagashima died on Tuesday, the 3rd of June, morning in Tokyo. He was 89. The cause of death was pneumonia, the Yomiuri Giants. the only team Nagashima knew in 32 years as a player and a manager, said in a statement. A symbol of Japan's post-war growth, who was affectionately known as Mr. Baseball or Mr. Giants, Nagashima became a national hero, helping Giants win 9 consecutive Japan Series championships from 1965 to 1973, alongside World Home Run King Sadaharu Oh. Nagashima, with Oh and ex-New York Yankees star Hideki Matsui, served as one of the final torchbearers at the opening ceremony of the Olympic Games Tokyo 2020. Nagashima was recently seen at the MLB Tokyo Series in March, featuring Ohtani and the World Series champions Los Angeles Dodgers. Ohtani offered his prayers via Instagram shortly ahead of the Dodgers game against the New York Mets, saying, quote, "I offer my sincerest condolences." After winning the 2000 Japan Series for a second time as Giants skipper, Nagashima turned his sights to the Olympic Games as he was appointed to manage the national team for Athens 2004, generating unforeseen enthusiasm among Japanese sports fans. But just before the Games in March 2004, Nagashima was forced to step down after suffering a stroke. It would not be until the Tokyo 2020 opening ceremony that he finally realized his long-held dreams of Olympic participation, following intense rehab to claw back from his illness like the fighter he was famously known to be. Sean Kim-san. Sean Kim-san died at 80. Master Sen Kim-sean, a renowned proponent of the Kun Labokator martial art, passed away this afternoon, June 3rd, after suffering a heart attack. He was 80 years old. Vath Shamruan, Secretary-General of the National Olympic Committee of Cambodia, NOCC, told the Post that Kim-sean passed away at 1:40 p.m. Shamruan paid testament to Kim-sean's significant contributions to reviving the ancient Khmer martial art, work which led to its eventual inscription in the UNESCO Intangible Cultural Heritage of Humanity list in 2022. He described his passing as a significant loss of human resources, as he likely had not yet fully passed down his extensive knowledge of Kun Labokator to the next generation. Founder of Kun Labokator lost to illness. We are greatly saddened because he was a living treasure, thanks to his knowledge and skills. He said he had more skills to share with the younger generation, although he had done so much already, he said. We are thankful to him for his commitment to Kun Labokator. He did so much for the martial art and for the nation, he added. Our Dara, Deputy Secretary-General of the Cambodian Lebgator Federation and a disciple of Master San Kim-sean, said the master's death is a profoundly sorrowful moment for those who love Lebgator. Today is a deeply sad day for all martial arts students, teachers, and enthusiasts of Kun Labokator. We have lost our revered master. In the past, he always inspired us, his students, to become teachers and leaders in the field of Labokator. He achieved many accomplishments for us and for the nation, Dara explained. At the age of 13, Kim-sean began training in Labokator under Master Kim Leek at Mahamantre Pagoda, later training in freestyle and international boxing. Robert Redford. Robert Redford has always been more than just an actor. He is a storyteller, a dreamer, a pioneer who helped shape the very fabric of American cinema. From Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid to The Natural, from All the President's Men to The Horse Whisperer, he gave us characters who were layered, thoughtful, and deeply human. And beyond the screen, he built bridges through his environmental work, his support of independent film, and his quiet insistence on integrity in art and life. But now, as time draws its curtain a little closer, Robert Redford's health is very poor, and the risk to his well-being may be increasing. For a man who seemed timeless, whose calm presence and wisdom always felt like a steady compass in a restless world, this moment of frailty is hard to witness. His voice, once so clear and commanding, is quieter now, his steps more careful. Yet, in the stillness, there remains the unmistakable essence of a man who lived on his own terms, with thoughtfulness, courage, and purpose. Redford has always led with quiet strength. He never sought the spotlight. He used it. He never chased fame. He used his name to uplift others, to protect the land, to preserve truth in storytelling. Now, as he faces this most personal of battles, he continues to embody that same quiet grace. Those who love him, family, friends, colleagues, and admirers across the globe, hold their breath a little longer these days. The world feels the weight of this moment. Yet even in vulnerability, Robert Redford teaches us, he shows us that aging is not a loss of strength, but a deepening of spirit. We are grateful for the films, for the fight, for the legacy, for the man. Thank you, Robert Redford, for the art, the activism, and the soul you've shared. May you be surrounded now by peace, by love, and by the quiet beauty you brought to everything you touched. John Travolta. John Travolta has danced his way into the hearts of generations. From the disco floors of Saturday Night Fever to the magnetic charm of Grease, from the depths of Pulp Fiction to the tenderness of Phenomenon, he has shown the world every shade of emotion, joy, sorrow, resilience, and love. But now, behind the scenes of a life filled with unforgettable moments, John Travolta is facing one of his most difficult challenges. His health is very poor, and the risk of further complications continues to grow. For a man who once moved with effortless rhythm and carried his characters with boldness and vulnerability, this chapter of slowing down is hard to witness. His smile, once the spark of any room, is now softer, still present, still warm, but accompanied by a quiet weariness that only those close to him truly understand. John has faced unimaginable loss in his life. He has carried grief with grace and continued forward with strength, not only for himself but for his children, his fans, and those who have leaned on his light for inspiration. And now, as his own body grows tired, that same inner strength is being tested more than ever. There is courage in the way he navigates this pain. There is grace in how he accepts help, how he cherishes the small moments, and how he never lets go of love. Through every hardship, he continues to reflect the kindness, humor, and generosity that have always defined him. For those of us who've laughed, cried, and danced because of John Travolta, this is a moment to send that love back. Thank you, John, for every performance, every memory, every bit of hope you've sparked. You've lifted so many with your light. Now, may that same light surround you with peace, with comfort, and with unshakable love. Renee Victor. Renee Victor dies at 86. Renee Victor, best known for voicing the strict but loving grandmother in the Pixar film Coco, died on Friday night at her home in Sherman Oaks, Calif. She was 86. The cause was lymphoma, a representative for her confirmed on Sunday. Ms. Victor appeared in a number of television series through her decades-long career, including as Lupita on the comedy Weeds. But her most well-known role came in 2017 as the grandmother in Coco, which follows a 12-year-old boy in Mexico who is transported to the land of the dead. In a post on social media, Pixar said it was heartbroken about Ms. Victor's death. "We will always remember you," the company added, possibly referring to the signature song in Coco. Renee Victor was born on July 25, 1938, in San Antonio. She was raised in a traditional Catholic family and went to an all-girls school. When she was 10, Ms. Victor danced in a production of the opera Carmen, according to the entertainment database IMDb. Ms. Victor's early career included a run as a singer and dancer at the Stardust Hotel in Las Vegas, according to IMDb. She went on to do more stage work internationally, including in Australia, Europe, and Latin America. Ms. Victor later returned to Los Angeles and hosted the local talk show Pacesetters, a public affairs program. She also worked as a translator and interpreter at the 1984 Summer Olympics in Los Angeles, as well as for the BBC. In 1996, Ms. Victor starred in the short film Libertad, portraying a matriarch fighting to keep her fractured family together. The next year, she played the Hispanic translator in Robert Duvall's The Apostle. She had roles in 2 other films with Mr. Duvall, Assassination Tango, and A Night in Old Mexico. Michael J. Burns. Michael J. Burns dies at 66. Former Archbishop of Agana Michael J. Burns, who was suffering from Alzheimer's disease, died Saturday morning, Guam time, according to church officials. He was 66. Burns died peacefully in the care of close friends and medical staff while resting in hospice care in Detroit. He was contending with the progressively worsening illness of Alzheimer's disease, which prompted his resignation as Archbishop of Agana in March of 2023, Archbishop Ryan P. Jimenez said Saturday morning. Burns became coadjutor Archbishop on Guam in 2016, after Archbishop Anthony Apparon, who served as head of the church for 30 years, was removed by the Pope. A Vatican tribunal later convicted Apparon of abusing minors. Burns was appointed Archbishop in 2019 when Aperon exhausted all appeals in the case. Before coming to Guam, Burns served as the Auxiliary Archbishop of Detroit, his hometown, from 2011 to 2016. On Guam, much of his attention was spent dealing with divisions within the church. Burns led the church as hundreds of sexual abuse lawsuits were filed against the archdiocese, which eventually filed for bankruptcy. Jimena said Burns, quote, "will always be remembered for the tremendous faith, dedication, and perseverance he showed as he led the archdiocese during some of the most difficult years in the history of our church on Guam. He demonstrated great courage, faith, and obedience on October 31, 2016, when he answered the call from Pope Francis to travel many miles away to shepherd our people in a place he knew little about." Burns was the archbishop entrusted with making the difficult decisions related to the COVID pandemic. Betsy Yoakum. Betsy Yoakum dies at 104. Funeral services are scheduled for this weekend for a former South Bend Blue Sox player. Betsy Sockam Joachim died Saturday at 104 years old. Joachim was a member of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League from 1943 to 1948. There is a permanent display of the team at the Baseball Hall of Fame and Museum in New York. Local baseball legend Betsy Sockam Joachim of the famous South Bend Blue Sox has passed away at the age of 104. According to our reporting partners at the South Bend Tribune, she died this past Saturday at Southfield Village. Joachim was a member of the All-American Girls Professional Baseball League from 1943 to 1948. She played that entire stint with the Blue Sox as a pitcher, outfielder, and standout hitter. Over the next 50-plus years, Joachim and other players with the league were embraced for their groundbreaking role in women's sports. She was inducted into the South Bend Cubs Hall of Fame. Her baseball uniform is in a Smithsonian Museum display, and she was part of the AAGPBL Baseball Hall of Fame exhibit in Cooperstown, New York. Stanley Fischer. Stanley Fischer dies at 81. Stanley Fischer, an economist and central banker whose scholarship and genial, consensus-seeking style helped guide global economic policies and diffuse financial crises for decades, died on Saturday at his home in Lexington, Mass. He was 81. The cause was complications of Alzheimer's disease, his son Michael said. Mr. Fischer served as the head of Israel's central bank from 2005 to 2013, as vice chairman of the Federal Reserve Board from 2014 to 2017, and as the number 2 officer at the International Monetary Fund from 1994 to 2001, when that agency was struggling to contain financial panics in Mexico, Russia, Asia, and Latin America. As a professor at MIT, he was a thesis advisor or mentor to an extraordinary range of future leaders, including Ben S. Bernanke, later chairman of the Fed, Mario Draghi, president of the European Central Bank, and Kazuo Uda, governor of the Bank of Japan. His former students also included 2 people who chaired the U.S. Council of Economic Advisors, Christina D. Romer and N. Gregory Mankiw, as well as Lawrence H. Summers, who served as Secretary of the Treasury and President of Harvard University. He had a role in shaping a whole generation of economists and policymakers, Mr. Bernanke said in a February 2024 interview for this obituary. That included spurring Mr. Bernanke's initial interest in macroeconomics and monetary policy. In 1998, The Times described Mr. Fischer as the closest thing the world economy has to a battlefield medic. He helped negotiate a rescue package for Russia by cell phone while standing atop a sand dune on Martha's Vineyard, where he was on vacation. John Brenkus. John Brenkus dies at 54. John Brenkus, host and co-creator of ESPN's Sports Science, died on Saturday, according to an announcement made on his X account Monday night. He was 54. The Emmy Award-winning host had been dealing with depression, the statement said. John lost his fight with this terrible illness on May 31, 2025, the Post read. His heartbroken family and friends request privacy at this time and encourage anyone who is struggling with depression to seek help. Brenkus was also the founder of Brinks.tv and co-founder of Base Productions. Brenkus opened up about his depression and suicide attempt to Marcellus Wiley, ESPN colleague and former NFL player, in January 2023. He said that when he was living in Park City, Utah, after selling his company and Sports Science, he felt isolated and spiraled into a deep, deep depression. "I was flat out suicidal," Brenkus said. "So much so I had a noose tied around my neck. I was ready to do it." Brankus credited his dog Zeppelin with rescuing him by tugging on his jeans and pulling him out of his suicidal funk. The sports host then explained seeing multiple psychologists and psychiatrists trying to receive help, until one doctor in Virginia helped him find the right path. Wiley reposted the announcement of Brankus's death, writing, quote, "RIP" with praying and heart emojis. Brankus's Sports Science series aims to uncover sports' biggest myths and mysteries by using cutting-edge technology to measure momentum, friction, and the laws of gravity, ESPN describes on its website. The series won 6 Emmy Awards, first airing on Fox Sports in 2007 before moving to ESPN. In a tribute on ESPN, Brankus was described as an innovator, an entertainer, and an educator who will be missed by many. Steve Wright. Steve Wright dies at 82. Steve Wright, who played tackle for the Green Bay Packers from 1964 to 67, died Sunday at a care facility in Augusta, Georgia. Wright was 82. While Wright played in relative obscurity during his 4 seasons in Green Bay and also at his other 4 NFL stops, he was the model for what is now the Walter Payton Man of the Year trophy. The trophy sculpture was created in Wright's likeness and it hasn't changed. Drafted in the 5th round in 1964, Wright played sparingly as a rookie. At the time, the Packers were blessed with 3 outstanding veteran tackles: Norm Masters, Forrest Gregg, and Bob Skoronski. Masters and Gregg started the first 7 games as the left and right tackles, respectively. Skoronski, who had played tackle his first 6 seasons, had been moved to center to replace Jim Ringo. But Lombardi scrapped those plans before the 8th game, moving Gregg to right guard, where second-year man Dan Grimm had been starting for an injured Jerry Kramer, Masters to right tackle, and Skoronski back to left tackle. A year later, Lombardi was intrigued enough by Wright's size. He stood 6'6" and weighed 250 pounds, and potential that he moved Gregg to left guard in place of Fuzzy Thurston and started Wright at right tackle for the first 11 games. Again, Lombardi ditched that experiment in the 12th game, and Wright played sparingly thereafter as the Packers won NFL championships in 1965, 66, and 67. In April 1968, Wright was traded with linebacker Tommy Crutcher to the New York Giants for tackle Francis P. Wright played in at least parts of 5 more seasons with the Giants, Washington, Chicago, and St. Louis Cardinals. Jonathan Joss. Jonathan Joss dies at 59. Jonathan Joss, an actor on King of the Hill who voiced John Redcorn, died in a shooting on Sunday, San Antonio police confirmed to Variety. He was 59. San Antonio officers were dispatched to a shooting in progress at a home on Sunday night around 7 p.m. When they arrived at the scene, they found Joss near the road after he was shot multiple times. The officers attempted life-saving measures until medics arrived, but Joss was pronounced dead at the scene. The shooter fled in a vehicle but was detained by officers a block away and booked for murder. The investigation is still ongoing. TMZ, which broke the news, reported that Joss was shot by a neighbor after a disagreement. In a statement on Joss's Facebook page, the actor's husband, Tristan Kern de Gonzalez, alleged that he and Joss were targets of homophobic harassment and that their house burned down after over 2 years of threats from people in the area who repeatedly told us they would set it on fire. De Gonzalez wrote that Joss was murdered by someone who could not stand the sight of 2 men loving each other. My husband Jonathan Joss and I were involved in a shooting while checking the mail at the site of our former home. That home was burned down after over 2 years of threats from people in the area who repeatedly told us they would set it on fire. We reported these threats to law enforcement multiple times, and nothing was done, De Gonzalez wrote. Throughout that time, we were harassed regularly by individuals who made it clear they did not accept our relationship. Much of the harassment was openly homophobic. When we returned to the site to check our mail, we discovered the skull of one of our dogs in its harness placed in clear view. Fred Espenack. Fred Espenack dies at 71. Astronomy has lost one of its most assiduous calculators of eclipses with the passing of astronomer Fred Espenack. On April 15, 2025, Espenack announced on his Facebook page that he had idiopathic pulmonary fibrosis, his health was declining rapidly, and that he would immediately be entering hospice care. Doctors determined that the disease had progressed too far for a lung transplant. He passed away peacefully on Sunday, June 1st at his home in Portal, Arizona. He was 71. Fred was a well-known and highly regarded expert on eclipses, so much so that he became almost as well known by his nom de plume, Mr. Eclipse. He first got interested in astronomy when he was 8 years old. I was visiting my grandparents on Long Island when a neighbor boy invited me to see the moon through his new telescope. Just one look, and I was hooked. After a relentless 6-month campaign, my parents conceded to my request and I received a 60mm Tasco refractor for Christmas, Espenak wrote in his biography on astropixels.com. Fred first became attracted to eclipses when, at the age of 9, he witnessed a partial eclipse of the sun from the New York metropolitan area. 7 years later, on March 7, 1970, when the moon's dark shadow tracked along the Atlantic seaboard, he was able to coerce his parents to borrow the family car where he traveled by himself to North Carolina and witnessed his very first total solar eclipse. Initially, he expected it to be a once-in-a-lifetime experience, but when totality ended, Fred knew he had to see another total eclipse. Indeed, that 1970 eclipse would be the first of 31 totalities he would journey to see during his lifetime. Tommy Lee Jones. Tommy Lee Jones has always been the embodiment of quiet intensity. An actor whose presence alone could fill a room, whose every word carried the weight of truth. Whether he was chasing fugitives in The Fugitive, delivering unshakable law in No Country for Old Men, or offering weathered wisdom in Lincoln, Tommy never needed to shout to be heard. His craft was precise, powerful, and deeply human. But now, far from film sets and red carpets, a more personal story is unfolding, one marked by fragility. Tommy Lee Jones's health is very poor, and the risk of further decline may be rising. It's difficult to reconcile the image we hold of him, the fierce eyes, the quiet command, the sturdy voice, with the reality of illness. Time has a way of softening even the strongest among us. His once tireless stride is now more tentative. Conversations are shorter, his moments of rest more frequent. Yet even in this quieter version of himself, there's a familiar strength that lingers. He's never been one for spectacle. Tommy has always moved with integrity, focused more on the work than the accolades. And now, as he faces one of life's hardest challenges, he does so with that same steadfast resolve. He leans into privacy, into the company of those who know him beyond the screen, and into the small sacred moments that make each day meaningful. To his fans and peers, this is a time to reflect on what he's given us, not just through unforgettable characters, but through the example of a man who always valued truth over fame. His performances were never about pretending. They were about understanding, about inhabiting the real weight of life. Tommy Lee Jones taught us that strength isn't loud, it's steady. And now, as his strength is tested, we hold him in our hearts. Thank you, Tommy, for your art, your honesty, your grit. You've shaped stories we'll never forget, and in this difficult time, we stand with you, with respect, love, and quiet prayers for peace.